Well, welcome once again to New Junction. Now, as you can see, we've got lots of trains running. There's been quite a bit of progress in the last week or so, particularly once again around this area, and a couple of new products. So I think I should stop waffling, take you back a week or so, and I'll show you what I've been doing here on the layout. So I've been waiting for some more paint in the name of a tub of Tamiya XF78's wooden deck tan, and I'm using this to accent the stonework on the tunnel portals. So while these are away having that work done, being painted up, it's now on me to remove the first draft of the tunnel portals and get on with painting the track. I've not been looking forward to this job, but it's one reason why I like doing these videos, because in a way it kind of forces me to keep going on a job that ordinarily I'd probably avoid doing for 6 months or so. So thank you guys. Right, let's waffle. Time to get on. So I've brought you behind the scene now. As you can see, it's a bit of a polystyrene mountain. Now I'm actually going to paint the track up until the baseboard join, which is there, but as you can see, it's become a bit of a dumping ground because it's sort of spare space, like all these things do. So the next job, of course, is always tidy away as you go, particularly rolling stock when you're doing any form of modelling. So that's going back in a cabinet or box. Heaven forbid I get some sleeper grime on my nice shiny Azuma. So as you can see, the tunnel mouths which are sat on the hill are the new ones, the Mark II, and they've had all the stone work picked out, and it's time now, before I put them in place, just to paint the side of the rails. And I think I will go with the Humbrol wash. This is the rust wash, and I'll just lightly go over all the track sides. So unfortunately, it is time for me to turn the trains off. So while I've been working away in the garage, I've had my various stock rolling round, and of course I like playing trains, so it's always a shame when we have to turn the stuff off, but it'll look better. Got to keep telling myself that. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to paint from basically just under the tunnel mouths all the way to the first board end, which is just after the bridge, or just away from the point, so it's about there. Right, here goes. Right, so I think you'll agree that's a vast improvement. It's starting to look like real track now, and that's just one coat of rust brown wash. The only problem with what you just saw is I've only done this side of the rails, so I've got to do the other sides. Wish me luck. There we go. As you can see, the first, or the rear 3 lines have now been painted, and just that small step, what a difference it makes compared to the one in the foreground here. Right now, there's a few more other jobs I need to do while this dries, so I'm going to go and get on. So as you can see, I've got the test board back out again, and that's because until I've physically committed to painting the track and ballasting on the main line, I can keep testing, and I would recommend you to keep testing if you are, just to be absolutely sure. Test every avenue. That said, I've managed to pick up some chinchilla sand. Now this is a very cheap pack off Amazon, so I'm going to lay this down. It should be very white and very thin. I think it's like £1 for this bag, so if it does prove suitable, it'll be very good value for money. However, currently leading the way, I think I'm leaning towards my traditional go-to, which is the Woodland Scenics Fine Grey Blend, but I'm doing this to be hopefully proven wrong and find a more realistic solution. Inside the bag, if it'll stay focused, it is a very ballast looking material, and it's very fine, and it's also quite a nice tone of various colours of grey in the bag, so it's looking hopeful. So it's time to test it out and put some on the track below. So as you can see, I've now tampered that in very roughly, very quickly onto the piece of track, and I think it looks very good. It's much smaller, and the bits are almost random in their shape. So if I move over to the painted track, you can see the previous ballast I've tested. The various bits look a bit more defined, maybe because they're slightly bigger. So if I show you the two, ignoring the colour of course, but you get the gist. The chinchilla sand is definitely finer. So what I'll do is I'll glue that now and see how it reacts to water and PVA, and leave that overnight, and we'll see how it looks in a few days. So one of the next jobs on the list is to turn the tunnel portals below into something a bit closer to the tunnel portals above, which I will add were a work in progress. So all the tunnel portals I've had at the top is white acrylic paint painted onto them, and then wiped around, so you get a sort of mortar effect onto the brickwork, and of course it, as you can see, pales it out, so it looks much more weathered and like it's been out in the open for 100 years or so. It's not the finished product by any means, but you can see from the close-ups that it's much better than the fresh blue and stone pigments. And like I said, lots of work still to go, lots of darker washes to really bring it down, and weathering powders and stuff, but this is the next stage. The process is extremely simple. It hardly needs any explanation, but I'll do it anyway. So I've got some very cheap white acrylic paint. I've squirted a dollop onto an old plastic wrapper down here, as you can see, and that just acts as a nice temporary palette which I can bin once I'm finished. And I will take a very small brush and I paint on a very small section just while the sort of acrylic lasts, and I'm doing it on the layout just so I can show you. And the idea is you want to paint it into a small section with enough paint that it goes into the cracks to form the mortar lines of the wall. And there we go. You can maybe you can just start to see it's filled the cracks there, but then it starts to not be enough paint left, and that's the point where you take a bit of kitchen towel and you wipe off the excess, trying to take off as much as possible. And there we go. As you can see, the process begins, and you just basically repeat that over the whole thing. And I find taking extra care around areas where paint can collect, so around all of the sort of proud details, and particularly down in the corners and things, just to avoid those. And of course, don't forget, this is just one of many levels of detail, but this is the level I need to finish before I can put it back on the layout. So it's a very important step. Right, time to continue. And there we are. So the tunnel has had its sort of mortar course and limey looking layer. As you can see, I've put it back in place because I can do all the rest of the weathering and toning down with it in situ. So now, of course, I can finally get it in position, which I'll do by testing trains going around all 4 lines, and then I can finally seal it in properly all around the tunnel wings, etc., particularly this bit, which was doing my head in. Right, and as you can see, with the rear 3 lines rails now painted, it's looking ever so slightly better. So I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'm going to get to cleaning the rail heads, and we'll get some trains running and see how it looks. So just to give you a running update of where I am with the scenery, obviously I've mentioned now the tunnel mouth is in, I'm going to fill in all the gaps, but I wanted to bring your attention to a new product which is, as I'm filming, is yet to be released, but it'll be released on the Friday nearest to when this video was launched. Now, this is from West Hill Wagon Works, and it's a brand new model fence. Now, believe it or not, fence is nothing new. However, if I bring you closer, you can see this is what I've been previously using. This is the Wills kit version, so it's longer, 3D printed, dare I say it, probably cheaper, but the biggest one for me is they do these 2 particular pieces. Now, they've got a 45 degree and a 22.5 degree slope. So as you can see, the dilemma I had with the hills is no longer a dilemma. So the advantage to this is now all the fence posts point in the right direction, and of course I can get on with laying it all around the hillside, and then build up the scenery from there. So what I'm going to do is have the fence pretty much starting here, going up the hill, round the top, down the bottom, and then off scene just where the 37 is, and that'll give me a nice, I can have grass in front, and then sort of a wooded tree area behind, just to sort of seal it off if possible. So it's all go, you see, it's all coming together, and that's half the fun. And I thought I was meant to be getting on with some ballasting, but I did think I'll have a quick run of the trains, because once I start ballasting, that's a beast that doesn't seem to ever end. So yeah, I thought I'd have a quick blast with them all, and I have to say it's looking rather nice. But you will be right, I've got them all running slowly because I'm on the outside of the layout rather than the inside. So it's been a while since I've done this view, but I thought while the trains are running and while I'm putting off doing ballasting, I'll just give you a view of the layout from this angle. Now, as you can see in the foreground, the Azuma 800 is running round onto the scenic section, he says. Now, would you believe that's been running perfectly? Go on. Stop playing silly billies. And then you've got the 37 and the PCAs in the background, and then the sleeper set coming this way. So we've got 3 lines operational and 3 running lines on the main line above, and then down below, if I've timed this roughly right, you'll see we've got the 37, which is currently underneath the scene, and it's somewhere under that curve, and we'll see it come out very soon. But you can see now currently I've got a couple of running issues. So where I've got all my curves on the various ends, oh, there's a 37. Look at that, 2 37s, eh? That's a shot. So where we've got the mainline curves, they do currently just touch. You might be able to hear it. So I'm going to have to do something about that. But then I've not had this all lines running for quite a while actually. So God, show me up because the camera's running. But yeah, that end, the messy end where all the bits are, you can see all the curves there. They're the tightest, believe it or not. That's radius 2 where the PCAs are, very, very tight. But they run absolutely fine. No catching at all. And of course the green 37, that's underneath the scene again at that point. But yeah, it's just this upper end. Got to do some fettling. That said, I think it's running alright. Now, I am running them quite slowly, as you'd imagine, because I'm on the outside of the layout and the controller is currently on the inside of the layout. So if anything goes wrong, I need as much time as possible, because there are some rather sheer edges here, there and everywhere. So, yeah. Coming on alright. Problem with the 800, it's not got a stay alive in it, so while that point's not wired up to a point motor, it is dying because I'm going so slow. Whereas the other 3 locos are all Acura scale, and they've all got stay alives, and you don't have to get used to it, I tell you. Oh, that's another job on the list. Stay alives for my 800. So, coming back to the chinchilla sand ballast, as you can see, it's gone on quite well, and of course the rails I've just painted them just so it looks as the model railway would look as it stands. Now, just for clarity, the ballast is still slightly wet, so it is darker than it will be, but already you can see the mix of colours in the ballast, and to be honest, I quite like it. Now, I think I'm going to go down the route of chinchilla sand for this, because of all of my testing so far, I mean, the others have been mainly for colours, but you get the gist. I quite like the look of this in terms of as a ballasted look. Now, the only other thing I'll need to do is the track you see in front of you isn't sleeper spaced. So although that looks quite good normally, I'm just going to test a little bit on the actual line and just make sure it doesn't look too silly, because of course with sleeper spacing there'll be more stones or ballast lumps in between each sleeper. So first world problems and all that. Oh, it's time to actually commit and put a bit of ballast down and see how it looks. So I think that's enough playing trains. I've been putting off the ballasting for long enough now. So where I'm going to go with it, I'm actually going to begin ballasting just under the tunnel and coming as far as I need to before I really have to put any details underneath the track. So that's probably the first 4 or 5 feet really, but it's a good start, and it'll I think it'll start to visually improve the layout. I still have one piece of track to replace. I've just got to take up the cork underneath, but otherwise I think the layout's coming on again. So I'm going to say thank you very much as ever for watching. Thank you very much to the channel Patreons, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully with ballasting done.